A single chip, no larger than a fingernail, is placed on a lab bench under a stark white light. In boardrooms from Cupertino to Seoul, a silent alarm is triggered. A threshold long thought to be a decade away has been crossed not with a declaration of war, but with a whisper. For years, the architecture of power in personal computing has been a settled matter, a dominant player, an established order. But revolutions are never announced. They arrive quietly in the form of a spec sheet, a benchmark, a technological impossibility made real. What you are about to witness is not just a product launch, it is the first tremor of a seismic shift, a recalibration of global technological supremacy that begins not with software, but with silicon. The question is no longer if the landscape will change. It is whether anyone can stop what has already begun. Welcome everyone to Revo Now, where we decode tomorrow's hidden tech landscape, today. And if you stay until the end, you will understand the one critical vulnerability this breakthrough exposes, a flaw that could redefine the entire industry overnight. This channel exists to look past the headlines, past the hype cycles, and into the silent revolutions that are actively shaping our collective future. The information we dissect here is more than just news. It is a strategic advantage. For developers, it's a roadmap. For investors, it's an early warning system. For everyone else, it is the key to understanding the world that is being built around you right now. What we are covering today transcends typical tech rivalry. This is about foundational innovation, about the very limits of physics and engineering being challenged in real time. We are talking about the future of computational power, the next generation of automation, and the very realignment of the global semiconductor revolution. The implications for future tech trends in 2025 and beyond are quite simply profound. But before we dive into the depths of this discovery, if you are ready to understand the forces that will dictate the next decade of technological progress, then securing your access to this intelligence is crucial. Hitting the like button fuels our research, sharing this video builds our community of analysts, and subscribing to Revo Now ensures you are never left in the dark when the next breakthrough occurs. The public narrative of processor dominance has been a simple, almost monotonous story for years. Apple's M-series chips, built upon the formidable ARM architecture, executed a stunning coup. They abandoned the x86 road traveled by Intel and AMD, and in doing so, achieved a near-mythical status, blistering performance married to astonishing power efficiency. The M3 chip, particularly the Max and Ultra variants, became the undisputed king of the hill. Benchmarks proved it. Creative professionals swore by it. The competition was left scrambling, attempting to emulate a formula that seemed uniquely Apple's. We have been conditioned to view progress as incremental, a 10% performance bump here, a slightly better neural engine there. The playbook was set. The entire industry was playing a game of catch-up on a field designed by Cupertino. The common knowledge was that this lead was insurmountable for the foreseeable future, a testament to Apple's vertical integration and deep software-hardware synergy. The conversation around China's tech innovation, particularly in high-end semiconductor design, was often patronizingly framed as them being years behind, hampered by external constraints and access to critical manufacturing technology. But this public layer of understanding is a facade. It is the visible tip of an iceberg, beneath which moves a colossal, unseen structure of ambition and ingenuity. What the mainstream analysis consistently misses is the sheer velocity of iteration happening outside the traditional hubs of tech. The assumption that the established players can simply continue on their predictable Moore's law trajectory is not just naive, it is dangerously obsolete. The real game is not being played on the same board anymore. The rules themselves are being rewritten. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must look at the obscured patents, the hushed industry whispers, and the strategic pivot Huawei was forced to make. The entity known as HiSilicon, Huawei's chip design arm, did not simply go quiet after being placed on the entity list. It went underground, operating with a level of secrecy and focus that is unprecedented in modern tech. Their mission was not to catch up. It was to leapfrog. It was to build a new stack from the ground up, free from any external dependency. This meant more than just designing a new CPU core. It meant reimagining the entire silicon ecosystem. This is where the hidden development becomes critical. While the world watched Apple, Huawei was making staggering advances in interconnects, memory architecture, and most importantly, AI-native processor design. We are not talking about a chip that simply has a dedicated NPU. We are talking about a system on a chip where artificial intelligence is not a component, but the foundational philosophy. The Kirin PC chip's architecture reportedly allows the NPU to communicate with the CPU, GPU, and memory controller at a latency so low it effectively creates a single fluid computational entity. This is not an incremental step. This is a topological shift in chip design. Obscure research papers from Chinese institutions previously overlooked suddenly take on new meaning. They detail experiments in photonic interconnects and novel semiconductor materials that reduce electron leakage at sub-5 nanometer scales. The whispers point to a design that is less concerned with raw gigahertz and more with computational efficiency per watt, a metric that becomes exponentially more important as we move into the era of ambient computing. These are not just hidden developments, they are the foundational pillars of a completely new approach to silicon. The traditional product cycle in high-performance computing is glacial. A new architecture every 3 to 4 years, with refresh cycles in between. This pace was a comfort to the incumbents. It allowed for careful planning, extensive software optimization, and controlled market penetration. Huawei's re-emergence shatters this entire model. Consider the timeline. From being effectively cut off from advanced node manufacturing to producing a competitive smartphone chip was a feat in itself. But to then pivot that momentum into the vastly more complex and performance-driven world of desktop and laptop computing, and to do so with a product that allegedly challenges the best in the world, suggests an acceleration effect that defies all conventional wisdom. This is not merely a company moving fast. This is the manifestation of a national and industrial priority operating at a velocity that decentralized, profit-driven Western corporations cannot easily match. The old cycle of innovation is dead. We are now in an era of compressed, hyper-focused development sprints, where a 12-month gap can see not a minor iteration, but a generation-defining leap. If a company can go from perceived obsolescence to threatening the peak of the market in this truncated time frame, what does the next 12-month window hold? This acceleration effect creates a wave of uncertainty that destabilizes the entire market. Roadmaps become worthless. Long-term investments are suddenly risky. The very definition of a leading-edge chip could change multiple times before a typical product even reaches store shelves. This velocity is the new battleground, and it is a war of attrition that few are prepared to fight. The benchmarks, those cold, hard numbers that form the universal language of performance, are beginning to tell a story that many will refuse to believe. Leaked data points, not from promotional materials, but from engineering validation platforms, suggest a profile that is unnatural. It does not conform to the expected curves. We are seeing indications of a processor that does not throttle under sustained multi-threaded loads the way its competitors do. Its performance per watt curve remains flat long after others have peaked and declined. This suggests a thermal dissipation solution and an underlying architecture so efficient it points to something beyond the typical refinements. It hints at a fundamental breakthrough in managing electron flow and heat at the transistor level, perhaps leveraging those obscure material science patents we mentioned earlier. Furthermore, the synergy with Harmony OS is being hinted at as a game-changer. This is not just about drivers and optimization. The whispers suggest a level of hardware-software integration that even Apple's legendary Synergy might not achieve, because Huawei started with a blank slate for both simultaneously. Imagine an operating system that doesn't just talk to the chip, but is fundamentally aware of the state of every core, every cache, every neural processing unit in real time, able to allocate tasks not based on generic rules, but on a live model of the chip's thermodynamic and electrical conditions. This is the foreshadowing. The reveal is not merely a list of specifications. It is the unveiling of a new philosophy. The impending moment of clarity will expose not just a product, but a proof of concept that the established paradigms of computing are fragile. The real story is not that Huawei has built a fast chip. The real story is that they have built a different kind of chip, on a different kind of timeline, for a different kind of future. And it is a future that is arriving much, much sooner than any analyst's model predicted. So, what is the impossible? Huawei's upcoming Kirin PC chip has reportedly achieved parity with, and in specific critical benchmarks, surpassed Apple's M3 processor. But the how is what changes everything. The breakthrough is threefold. First, the use of a heterogeneous architecture that is far more advanced than Big Little. It is a tri-cluster design that integrates ultra-high-performance cores, high-efficiency cores, and a dedicated cluster of what are being termed ambient intelligence cores, designed solely for low-power, always-on AI tasks. This allows the chip to offload background OS and predictive analytics processes completely, leaving the traditional cores untouched for user applications, resulting in a perceived performance boost and battery life that seems to defy physics. Second, the integration of the MPU is not as a co-processor, but as a primary processor. Early data suggests the MPU can handle certain computational tasks that were previously the sole domain of the CPU, or GPU, but with 80% less power draw. This means tasks like video rendering, code compilation, and complex data filtering could be accelerated dramatically without taxing the main system. Third, and most critically, is the manufacturing. Despite being constrained from accessing TSMC's latest nodes, Huawei, in partnership with SMIC, has leveraged a refined second-generation 5nm process node, enhanced with proprietary design improvements and chiplet technology to create a package that competes with chips built on more advanced 3nm processes. They didn't win by playing the same node shrink game. They won by changing the game entirely, perfecting an older process to a degree no one thought possible and augmenting it with architectural genius. This changes human life directly. It proves that absolute technological hegemony can be broken. It provides a blueprint for other nations and companies to pursue technological sovereignty. For the consumer, it means a sudden and dramatic injection of competition into the high-end computing market, which will drive down prices and accelerate innovation at a pace we haven't seen in a decade. The center of gravity in the tech world has just shifted. Now that you know, it's your turn to weigh in. This is not a simple victory narrative. This is a complex geopolitical technological watershed moment. Does this breakthrough represent a healthy disruption that will force the entire industry to innovate faster, ultimately benefiting everyone? Or does it signal the beginning of a fragmented, bifurcated technological ecosystem where different regions operate on entirely different hardware and software standards, potentially stifling global collaboration? Is Huawei's achievement a testament to human ingenuity overcoming immense adversity, or does it raise profound questions about intellectual property and the nature of innovation under pressure? Should the West respond with further protectionism, or with a renewed commitment to open, collaborative and accelerated basic research to reclaim its lead? The conversation about who controls tomorrow is no longer theoretical. It is happening now, in the silicon heart of the devices we use every day. We have decoded the landscape. The question is, what do we build on it? Share your perspective in the comments below. Let's get a serious discussion going. What is the most surprising element of this story to you? The performance, the architecture, or the sheer speed of development? This isn't just about two tech giants trading blows. It's about the fundamental idea of progress itself. It's a reminder that no lead is permanent, and that the future is never predetermined. It is built by those who dare to do the impossible. Thanks for watching. This is Revo Now, decoding tomorrow's hidden tech landscape today.